Liftoff.
So, Secondhand Lions this week
Yeah.
was Raheem's pick, Mr. Blackzilla.
Yes, sir.
So,
Whew.
why don't you do us the honors? We'll have you kick it off.
I have a question before we start. Why did you pick this movie?
I've been feeling why he picked it.
I am lost.
All
I've been feeling.
Dave, go ahead and say why you think I picked it.
This is a huge stretch. This is a huge stretch. It's a huge stretch. But I feel like you picked it because I know you said like relationships you've had with your parents and stuff. And I noticed like the kid he was kind of taken in by these two guys, like dropped off by his mom or whatever. And I feel like you kind of related to that. Maybe I don't know the relationship with your mom. I can't remember what you said it was, but I feel like maybe you had kind of a strained relationship with your mom and you found like other men in your family, like kind of like, I don't know. I don't want to say took the place of her, but like helped raise you in the absence of her, maybe in a part of your life. Was my guess.
That's deep. That went deep. I thought he just had the VHS kicking around his house when he was a kid and watched it a ton.
That was pretty close, Dave. I gotta tell you, man, that was pretty freaking close.
That was my guess.
That was good.
Somebody's listening.
Yeah, that was pretty freaking close, man.
You identify with the kid.
Dave's been listening.
I put 2 and 2 together.
Oh yeah. So basically, this movie is a really good movie. It's a feel good movie. You know what I mean? It wasn't a movie that's supposed to be like, man, this is a dynamic, dope, whatever movie. It's a feel good movie, a folktale at that. And so, for me, yeah, like I see myself as that kid who was just kind of floating around. You know what I'm saying, from place to place.
Okay.
I somewhat did have a strained relationship. Like when you get older, right? When you're young, you see your parents as a superhero. It's like they can't do no wrong. But then as you get older, and then you start to realize the imperfections. You start to realize that they're not as what you thought they were. You know what I mean?
Oh, that's funny. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because when you're a kid, most of the time you just grown-ups act the way they do, and you're like, okay, yeah, unless you're insolent. Right. Yep.
And then there's, there's so like I'm still, even though my father died at a really young age from cancer, like I still have that attachment. I still look for a father figure. You know what I mean? So It's like my Uncle Brian. He's the one that became that extra person. That kind of took over after my dad died. You know what I mean? So he was that extra beam of light, which I ended up doing the same thing. It's like he gave his heart, he gave everything that he could give, even though he didn't have much. And I just remember going back reflection and remembering how good of a person he was. Like he wasn't perfect, of course, but he was a good person to take on that responsibility, take on not just me, but my other siblings too, and then his own responsibility. So like that type of stuff, it kind of shaped me to be a better person along the trail of everything else that happened in my life that kind of shaped me as well. But it's you always find you're looking for something that's missing, and then you find it in other people. And that's what this kid pretty much did.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Or even if you're not looking for something that's missing, maybe you don't realize it is. Maybe you just are like drawn to a person outside your family, right? Because they have something that you're like, oh, wow, I don't have that. And that's positive.
Yep.
Right. That's like an actual positive. I have a guy like that. There's a dude that lived across the street from us. It was one of my dad's friends. And like, I mean, my parents left me like, honestly, nothing to like, like they were great. My folks were great. Like I didn't have a bad upbringing, and they were like, loving and everything I would want. Right. But this dude just opened up other avenues to things that I had interests in. Right. And I've always admired him for that. I should tell him. I should really track him down, actually. Like,
do it.
Just get a beer with him. I have never done that. And I feel like he would appreciate it.
Do it.
but it's true. Like even I feel like no matter which kid you are, you're always going to find some other adult that isn't necessarily a family member, or maybe a removed family member, like an uncle and aunt, something like that you're just going to be like click and be like, oh. In fact, when I went to visit my folks this weekend for the first time since COVID, my sister had a kid and stuff, and I didn't get to meet it really, so I went and met it. But the funny thing was, yeah,
we both were like, it.
Well, I don't get to tell it what its gender is, so like, I went and met the kid, right? And like, but the funny thing was, her husband has kids from another marriage, and one of his kids ran outside and saw me and was like, "Are you my uncle?" And I was like, "Yeah, I mean, I'm your step uncle, like, but yeah." And she was like, "Can I have a hug?" And I was like, "Yes." And she ran right over, bam, and hugged me. And like, I ended up hanging out with that kid a little bit. And I was like, "Oh, weird." Like, and I was like, I remember being that kid. I remember being that kid and connecting with someone immediately that was another adult around and being like, "Oh, you're gonna have the same interests as me. You're gonna have the same disposition." Like it's just funny to have been on that end of it for the first time in my life. To be on that end of that experience for the first time in my life and be like, oh, wow, you know what I mean? Okay, that's funny. Now when I go visit my parents, that kid will be stoked that I came over, and I'll be like, wow, how was your week? What'd you do? Like, just doing that, like getting to fill that role. Like, I don't know, it was really interesting. It was odd. So it's weird that you say that in this episode in particular, because that just happened.
So that's really cool. That's really cool that you touched on that, because it opens up something of your past.
Yeah.
And it's sometimes we don't want to unlock it. We want to keep it locked up. You know what I'm saying? We want to keep the emotion locked up, but when you tap into it, man, it's so much of a healing. Like you heal, from past wounds. My initial thoughts when I first saw it, I got to go back to when I first saw this movie. When I first saw this movie, it's rare that I get caught in the feels. It's really, really rare. But the
last like 3 movies, though.
Huh?
I feel like we go back and watch every episode. Like the last 3, you were like, "Man, I teared up, dude. I hate to admit it."
No. I ain't talking about. I'm not talking about now as who I am now. I'm talking about back when I watched it. I was bottled up. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, okay.
I'm a different person now. I'm like, I will cry over the Jetsons. Okay, just. I'll cry over the Jetsons. Okay, you know what I'm saying?
Or Cruella. Cruella will get you too.
Cruella, you know what I'm saying? It'll catch you. It'll get you in the feels. Okay, I'm soft now. I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened, man. But
it's those middle-age hormones hitting us, right?
I guess. But my first initial thoughts when I first watched it, man, it cracked me all the way up. It had me emotionally all over the place. I thought this was, even though it was a folk tale, I thought this was well written for being a short movie. So anyway, so my initial thoughts was like, wow, this was a really amazing movie. It made me tap into stuff that I don't like tapping into, and it had me going up and down, the feel goods and the joys, the story, the storytelling part, you know what I'm saying? Like all this stuff, it just made me put me back to a little kid again. So I liked it.
Okay.
I liked it a lot.
Okay. All right. Jared?
So I don't think I've ever gone into a movie as blind as I did this one, like in my life. Because normally you see a trailer or you read the description, before you decide to click play. But this was a movie Raheem picked, and we didn't watch the trailer last week because you ran out of time.
Mm-hmm.
And so I basically saw the I See Dead People kid, and that's the last thing I saw before I hit play.
Squeaker.
Yep.
Come Squeaker.
And the funny thing is I never even heard of this movie, and the first time you mentioned it, Raheem, might have been in our first podcast or our second, when you said you were going to pick it. But in that podcast,
it's his first turn. Yeah.
In that podcast, you also said, "I'm going to pick the blackest movie." So Raheem did.
Oh.
Yeah, because I do the editing. And you said that as a joke. But I also
was like an unrelated threat, though.
I connected that in my head to Secondhand Lions. So I'm expecting I thought maybe it's like a Dangerous Minds or Lean on Me type thing. Like it just kind of felt like.
No, that's not even the blackest movie. Nah.
Well, no, but still, it's in that vein more than this movie, which was kind of the whitest movie ever. Like, it really, I mean, imagine my surprise when I'm like the grandpas turn around and it's freaking Michael Caine and Robert Duvall. Okay, this is a whole different movie than what I was expecting. Which, I mean,
by the way, when I said I'll pick the blackest movie, that was a threat because you said that you might choose Lord of the Rings.
All right.
If you do that,
that's right. It was a chat. I do remember
all
this.
y'all watch the most blackest movie.
That was definitely Raheem being like, "Bet you won't." Like,
won't do it. Don't do it.
To society.
My head just made the connection. Okay, Secondhand Lines. The reason I've never heard of it is because it's like, you know, in this whole Tyler Perry zone or whatever so
you thought that's why.
I know nothing about, you know, right? So,
oh my god, dude!
Come on. I mean, it's kind of true, right? I mean, how many Tyler Perry movies have you seen, Izzy?
I mean, he's in Gone Girl.
Is he really?
Yeah.
Yeah, he plays the attorney. Yeah, he's amazing. But you know, whatever.
Anyways, it was way not what I was expecting. But I pulled a lot of stuff out of it that I liked. I enjoyed it. It was a good pick.
Nice.
I was glad to be caught off guard.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Izzy.
Okay. My initial thoughts were because I didn't know anything about it either. So, you know, I kind of knew it was about a kid going to stay with relatives that were like in the, you know, kind of in the sticks, and it wasn't going to be what he was accustomed to, kind of a thing. But, you know, I didn't have any expectations going in. So, but my first impressions when I watched it were that it felt like it was definitely geared toward kids. It felt like a kid's movie to me. And I don't mean that I'm not saying it felt immature. That's not what I'm saying. Because the material they deal with is pretty mature as far as like what the kid's going through.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But it felt like it was the way it was delivered felt like a delivery system meant for kids to watch. Right. So that was one of my first impressions. The other one was I was actually blown away by the muscle of the cast. Like this is another like almost like Man in the Iron Mask thing where it's like, whoa, these actors are all in this. Like, holy crap. Okay, sure, dude. But also like on a personal note, you know, Robert Duvall's character like really reminded me of my grandpa. The way he's just, you know, my dad's dad, because my dad's like a softie, big softie, right? And I'm kind of in the middle. My grandpa's like hard as a nail, but he's like got a really soft, squishy center, but it's really tiny and really hard to get to, right? And so that's what he was like. Like, and even the way he talked, even the way he talked. There was one line in particular where like they spend the whole time with him acting like they're annoyed with him, and he's in the way. And then his mom picks him up, and he's like, "She doesn't deserve that kid." That's how my grandpa would be, right? It would be like really late in the game that he would admit that he got stirred. You know what I mean? So. But that was cool. You know, those are kind of my first impressions. Felt like kind of basically a kid's movie with like a crazy cast. Like so, but that's all. I'll leave it at that before we get into likes and dislikes.
Okay. My initial thoughts.
You're giving me hope.
My initial thoughts were same. Like I like the cast a lot. I swear I thought I heard of this movie before, and then it started playing. I was like, man, maybe I was thinking of something else. Like I didn't recognize anything about the movie. I was like, yeah, I've never seen it before. But there was some cool like a little bit of symbolism in it. I'll say that I kind of noticed a little bit in the movie that I thought was pretty cool. But yeah, man, the cast was like Robert Duvall, Alfred. I can't remember his name.
Michael Caine.
Michael Caine.
Yes.
Not Jeremy.
To DC.
The Squeaker Kid.
Alfred.
And what's her name? That's what's his name's wife, right? The guy from Footloose. Ain't that his wife?
Yeah, that's Kevin Bacon's wife, Kyra.
Yeah.
She's such a good actress, dude. She's so crazy good.
Super good.
Like,
yeah. But yeah.
Overall, really good.
Overall, I wouldn't say I'll say I liked it. I wouldn't say I hated it, and I wouldn't say I loved it.
This
I'm
is
like in
initial
the middle.
thoughts. Don't do this to me.
I'm in the middle. I'm in the middle. Okay, yeah. I won't get into likes, dislikes, none of that. Yeah.
All right.
So we
But
know his
since we're
rating is a
talking about
5. His rating is a 5, right?
Spoilers. All right. All right. Likes. Let's do it,
Spoilers.
Mr. Ra.
All right.
Likes.
Man. So I pretty much liked everything about this movie. Even the part to where the mom played her role, because her role is what shaped him to grow up faster than he should have. You know,
Mm-hmm.
the boy was willing to travel by himself. You know what I'm saying, to whatever how far he was going to go. You know, but he grew to an age to where even though his mom treated him as being naive, still he grew to an age to where he was no longer naive. Like he understood the game. You know what
Oh
I'm saying?
man, yeah, he talked to his mom on even footing on a few of the dialogue scenes, and I was like, that was really impressive. I'm like, man, you're the reason he's there. Totally hard to agree with Raheem on this one.
Oh yeah, his facial expression broke me. Like the acting for this young kid on that part when he was on the phone with her, and he knew that she lied, and hearing it from her mouth.
Yeah,
You know, just the drop of his face. Oh my gosh! And then, anyways, so there's so many likes that I have in this film. It's a fun-filled, joyful film. You get to see a lot of, they have money, you have family members. This is like true, like right, like if you have a lot of money and you have freaking vultures for family members coming out to visit you because they know that they going to get some money.
even if you don't have money, dude. When my grandparents passed away, like my dad was fighting off his sisters like jackals, like over just nothing, over stuff that was like a table.
Right.
And we're not talking like sentimental stuff. You know what I mean? Like it, even without money in the picture, it's still just like this thing, man.
It's disgusting. It's like, but it shows like somewhat of human nature. It's like have and the have-nots. People who even have a lot, they still want more. You know what I mean? So it kind of displayed that in this film too, just showing that part of it, which I like because it made it more real. Even though it was a folk's tale, so you had the real part of the movie, and then you had the storytelling part of the movie. You know what I mean? But I pretty much liked everything about it. I can literally go on and talk about everything that I actually liked about it. It'll be a whole hour of me talking about what I liked about it, all the intricacies.
Well, talk about what resonates with you as a person the most. Like
so. Well, the most is the kid. Like the kid, going through what he went through and still ended up being okay, not jacked up, because we can have parents can ruin their kids in a real way. They really can.
Sure.
So he ended up being okay. The only reason why is because somebody from the outside took him in and raised him to be a good person, and those were really good parents. You know what I'm saying? To raise this kid, like really, really freaking good. And they taught him about morals. They taught him about respect was like a big thing, especially for men. They taught him just basically about being a good person. You know what I'm saying? Like there's right and there's wrong. There's just, you know what I'm saying? There's just all these things. And I like the part when he gave him part of the grown up speech, or the grown man speech, whatever. He gave him part of it, and his little squeaky voice is reaching out. It's like you gotta tell me the rest. You stay alive. You got like that part right there. Because he was like, as kids, we are looking for that. We're looking for guidance. We're looking for something to tell us what helps us to be a man. You know what I'm saying? It's like these talks.
There's a corner you turn when you get a certain age where you're like, how do I be me now?
Exactly.
Right? Instead of just doing what my parents want, how do I be me? Right.
Exactly. Yeah. And me, as I was growing up, man, I was searching. I was all over the place though. I made so many mistakes growing up, but I've learned from each mistake. I did not repeat a mistake. You know what I'm saying? I did something. It's like crap. That didn't end up well. So I had to hone myself to like, okay, what can I do differently? And I kept doing that all through my life because I didn't have a consistent guidance to my life until I met Jerry.
You had to follow a trail of breadcrumbs, pretty much, of like people, right?
Yeah.
Like people like in your life, they would come and go, like, and they would give you little pieces of things to progress through, right? Like you're building your own links of a chain.
And that was fun.
People, right?
That was fun. I enjoyed a lot of it. I can literally go on about everything about it.
But you identified with the kid, basically.
I resonated with the kid 100%.
Having to find your maturity and your counsel, advice, like direction from people that weren't immediately your family or like your parents.
Yeah.
Or you know what I mean? Like having to look to something, or maybe even not even having to, you know what I mean? Like I said, in my scenario, I just found it in addition to, and it was still priceless, right? The direction that I found in the same way as that kid or the same way as you was in addition to my parents being good parents, right? But it was still priceless. It still formed who I was, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just wild.
That's life,
just
man.
Wild.
But that was it.
Okay.
Good. All right, Jared. Likes.
Okay, so my likes. I liked all the stuff where they flash back. That was crazy. I was not expecting that at all. Like it felt like the
Arabian Nights kind of stuff.
It felt like the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles to me, where he just kind of Forrest Gumps himself into all these huge events and all these wars. I don't know if you guys ever watched it, but it's just he trips and falls into like all these different wars and stuff going on. So it felt a lot like that. It was pretty cool.
Awesome.
The other like is getting a little bit more emotional. It's interesting. You guys all feel this on different levels because you haven't even mentioned the level I feel it on. So my parents right now, they're 70. They're a little bit over 70, and you can tell they're kind of preparing themselves.
Yeah, they're tired.
They make little comments.
Yep.
And it kind of feels like where Robert Duvall's character was a little bit. It's just like I'm done. I did my thing. And I can kind of relate to that too in a way because I mean not so much, but I can see where they're coming from. Like I'm not ready to go yet by far at 45, but you raise.
Do you think your best years are behind you or something?
No, but I mean, you're
not even old, bro.
No, not at all. But you raise a couple kids. Kids. You kind of think, okay, I've done my thing, and you can see where they're at after another lifetime, basically, right? But then somebody enters your life, and with me, it's freaking Rose, right? And it's just like this is everything led up to this, like, and this right here is changing me. This little kid comes in and somehow with their open mind and naivety, like,
knowledgeable,
bring something new to the table, right? I mean, and it's like, oh, okay, this is what life is about, right?
So you're more like identifying with like Robert Duvall than with the kid.
Sadly, I'm really young to do that. But
that's just the complete opposite of like, yeah, okay, that's wild though.
I did start off my life early. I'm not directly relating to him, but I see my parents directly relating to him, and I see how I could quickly get there.
You could draw that line.
But I also see,
like at 50.
What's that?
I said like at 50, you're gonna get there at 50.
Yeah, 5 years. I got 5 years, 5 good years. That's like a Star Trek episode, right? Like I think it's like 60 where they throw you a big shebang and they just kill you, so you don't have to like live
it's like Logan's Run.
You don't have to live through the years. Oh yeah, they did. That was Logan's Run, right? There's obviously something you can take from every generation in this movie, which I think is really cool, that we all identified with different aspects. You saw it as a kid, Raheem.
Oh yeah,
you saw it young. I don't know exactly. I mean, they've kind of explained a little bit where the other two guys are, but yeah, I have. I don't know. I do. I see it from the older person's perspective, and how don't dive with your boots on, man. There's or do dive with your boots on. Dive with your boots on, right? Like there's more coming. You have no idea what could enter your life in a couple of years that can just take you on a whole different course where you're like, thank God I didn't die before this.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's my take of what the movie was telling me. But I do see all your guys' views too.
Interesting.
Okay. All right.
Yes,
Izzy?
that's dope. Yes. All right, come with it.
Okay, so I my biggest like is probably Robert Duvall as just an actor. Like it's just he's another one of those actors that kind of always acts the same, but you buy it every time. You're never like, oh, that's just Robert Duvall. It's never like a Jeff Goldblum thing where you're like, oh, he's just doing that. Like, but Robert Duvall is like completely believable no matter what. So that's probably my biggest like for the movie. And then I also like, Kyra Sedgwick. Like her acting is always like a 10 too. Like she's like so underappreciated. Every like time she's on the screen, she's like completely believable, even though she's like kind of a thought. Like in this movie, you know what I mean? Like it's still you buy
She's
it.
played a couple
That's the
roles
important
like
thing.
Yeah.
Huh?
She's played a couple roles like that.
Yeah, totally. But like,
watch for Cold Case Files, whatever on
oh yeah,
on complete like her acting skills is so freaking dope.
She's so good. No, she's a monster, dude. Like she's totally like she should be a household name, and she's totally not. Like, and then when I saw she was in it, I got stoked because I knew. I was like, oh, her and Robert Duvall alone. Like, and Michael Caine, like, I feel like he could have done better, but like, whatever. We can get into that. I'll save that for dislikes. But
it's hard to like imagine him without an accent.
I mean, he does it in The Weatherman, and like I actually bought it in The Weatherman. That's the weird part. The Nicolas Cage one. He plays like his dad, and he has an American accent in that, and it's totally believable. But in this one, it's like tricky, slippery. I liked the story arc with the lion a lot because I honestly didn't really identify with that kid in the way that Raheem did because I never like had that experience as far as like, oh man, I got dumped somewhere because somebody wasn't taking care of me and I feel abandoned and lost. Like I was the kind of kid that wanted to hang out by myself. You know what I mean? So like I wasn't like, that part didn't really resonate with me. But I liked the story because if I was put at like, some property with some old relatives like that and I was young, I would totally gravitate to one of the animals or more. And in fact, that was one of my favorite things about the movie was the pack of dogs and the pig all follow that kid everywhere. Right. And if you notice, like even when he goes to the mailbox, they're with him. They stop what they're doing to leave and follow that kid. They don't stay with the uncles. They're that kid's like herd in a weird way. So I love that. Like, cause I definitely have that experience whenever I'm like at somebody's house or whatever, the animals all find me. Like, I don't know what it is, but it's just like, it's a real thing, like being like a weird, like quiet Doolittle. So I love that. But I mean, that's mostly it. I also kind of liked one of my favorite things in the movie was how they got bamboozled so easily by the guy that sold seeds and they just grew a bunch of corn and they realized it in the middle. Like that killed me. It's like I was laughing like all day about that. Like that is such a funny way to take advantage of someone and like it's so far down the commitment that it's way too late. You're just like, I have corn. I'm not gonna kill it all. Like I'm gonna finish growing it all, but like
but the real funny part about this is that they were so against sellers, right? Like people who come out to sell to them. The kid broke them down. The kid is the one that broke them down.
Yeah, like, come on, like I want a garden or something. Yeah,
you know what I'm saying. So they was like, all right, let's listen to everything. So they got sold on everything. So some things were good, and then some things they were taking advantage of, and that's the whole thing with salesmen. But that was, man, great point. That was good.
Yeah, that killed me. I was like actually laughing out loud, like because I saw it too. Like when the kid's like, hold up, and I was like, that's all corn. I know that. And also one of my favorite parts of the movie was one of the things I really liked was when the kid, how Raheem brought up how the kid is at a certain maturity level because of the treatment that he's getting from the mom. The neglect, he's being forced to get to her level because she's immature. right? So he's like, boof, he meets her halfway and he talks to her like a peer most of the time in the movie, right?
Mhm.
And my favorite part of that is because when he does talk to her peer, it's not as a peer, he's not being disrespectful. He cares about his mom. And the part is on the bridge when he's like, has he hit you yet? Right? Because that guy hit him, that dude, and he's like, Mom, has he hit you yet? You know, when is it like, and I'm just like, yo, like, because I've never gone through anything like that, right? But I bought it. I did buy it, and I really liked that the kid could get there and say that. You know what I mean? Like, so I think that's probably going to do it for my likes, because I do have some criticisms that I want to get into, but they don't really have to do with the message of the film at all. They're all technical, kind of. So,
After
but
that,
the message
said,
was,
It's a folks tale, so I knew it was gonna be technical.
yeah,
after
like,
that,
but the
he
message
says,
was like, the message was nice. You know what I mean? And I really like the animals. I just like the animals. Like, I've always liked that. I've always liked animals, and my grandpa's property is like that. And like, I would love to have a pig. I would love to have a pet pig. They're so funny. Like, you know, and that bloodhound, there's like a purebred bloodhound hanging out. And I'm like, God, I would love to have a bloodhound. Their personality is so funny. Like, but anyway, yeah, I'll leave it at that for now.
That's dope. That's dope. Yes.
All right, Dave.
My likes. Yeah, I think the acting was good. I think I think the boy
you're-
Squeaker, he had the best acting. I thought he impressed me the most. Like, I think he did a good job. The Squeaker,
Squeaker.
the little boy.
Oh, okay.
Oh, whatever. I see dead people.
So he's never gonna live that down.
he doesn't look so good these days. I don't know if you've seen any pictures. of him
Yeah,
now,
I've seen it. I was like, man, that's that kid that's like big and has a beard now.
Yeah,
Um,
he's still acting.
yeah,
though.
I think he did a
in,
good job of like acting like a complete introvert. You know, like when he showed up and like just out of his element, nervous about like, you know, everything, and then he like you saw him like become his own like, you know, like I don't want to say a man, but he matured a lot when he was there, and I thought it was really good. Especially like the scenes with his mom, especially after she came back, were like really good, like really good.
Yes.
Especially like he has good. I didn't realize how good like facial acting that kid has. Like even when he was like down looking at
He
the
spends
money,
a lot of
like
the movie reacting.
yeah, like his face
Like-
reacting to everything is like really good, like really good.
That's what sold me. That literally is like so believable. Like, dang, like
Yeah, like when
I
he
can
was
feel
like,
myself feeling this way.
so like when he first got to the house and they had him sleep up in the attic and he was like laying on the bed and he was like super uncomfortable, like the way he was. I was like, dude, I was like, that's like. I feel like that's exactly how I would act laying in a bed I don't feel comfortable with. He didn't put his head all the way down. He was like afraid to get fully comfortable. But yeah, and I also liked. I don't know, maybe this is just something I saw in my mind, but like I really liked the kind of like parallel and symbolism they use with the lion, like the old lion that got there. It was like an old lion, like at the end of its rope, you know, that was about to die, and when it died happy, just like the two old guys did.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. But yeah. I don't want to get.
That's why it's called Secondhand Lions, not two old hillbillies.
But yeah, I think that's as far as I would go with likes. So
you guys mentioned the part where he said, "Has he hit you?"
Yeah.
But you didn't say the part where he says, "Do something for me for once."
That's in my dislikes.
Really? Okay.
Okay. Get to the nitty gritty. All right, Rob.
Look at Raheem. He's like, oh, he's gonna get.
Here we go. Hey, remember, we're keeping this an hour and a half.
You guys know where I'm at morally by now.
That was kind of surprising, though. That was one of your.
I don't like selfish.
All right. So dislikes.
Yes, dislikes.
It's a folk tale, you know. It's a folk tale. I love folk tales, but it's a folk tale. Like I wish it was more realism. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But that's pretty much is my dislike, because like you can only do so much with folk tales type of movies. You can only do so much. But it is like they focus on what? They focus on the feel good. They focus on how to make people feel good, like a happy ending to a story. That's what folk tales is about. You know what I'm saying? But that is also the downfall of a movie for me. So like I would rather have a realistic view of a movie that's like this, that ended up having an actual happy ending. But if it's like a realistic movie, that's cool. You know what I mean? The stories, you know, he's a war vet, whatever. But the stories, it made it feel fake.
Yeah.
It really made it feel fake. You know, like the stories made it feel fake. It was like you know. But
yeah,
it was
it's supposed
like,
to feel like a storybook, kind of, probably, right?
Yeah. So like, if they would have had like, okay, they would have had like some real, you know, world war movies, you know, like top of backdrops or going back in the past, and you know, and then you met somebody, whatever, like, but Sahara type of India thing, and then you have this comedic part in it with the whole shahad and everything. It's just like, okay, you know what I'm saying? So that was the only thing I disliked about the movie, was that part and those scenes, the unrealistic scenes of this dude being this heroic person. If they would have,
maniac.
It is a kid film. So my mind went, okay, kid film. Shoot back, kid film. Remember that. At that time too. So that was my only dislike, and that's it.
Okay. All right, Jared.
I didn't mind that because, much like a Legend of 1900, it was, that part was a story being told, so there was a lot of room for embellishment, right? It became a fairy tale at that point. It became a story somebody was telling somebody else. Mm-hmm. So I just kind of felt like that part was interpretation. Take it as you might, you know. I didn't like the ending though, because that was straight up what happened, where the guy's son shows up with the grandson in the helicopter at this place to tell them, oh yes, I heard so many stories about this guy from my grandfather or dad or whatever it was. Like, what are the chances of him seeing on the news this happening in some of somebody running into a barn in some no-name town and knowing the name of the person and flying there and being there right when, you know, the kid comes back.
Right. I mean, it's a movie.
That was really silly. The other thing I didn't like,
that falls in line with the folk's tale.
Okay, but the folk's tale stuff was a story being told. This was set in real life.
I know, but for me, it falls.
I mean, if you want to say it's a kid's telling a story about his life that he was told stories about, like if it's second time around, anyways, they
wrapped it up like a kid's movie. This is what it felt like to me.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
The other thing, and I feel like this was probably no fault of the movie. Okay, so I looked it up. I told you, Raheem, the director of this movie, the director and writer of this movie, also wrote The Iron Giant, which is top
one of your
5
favorite movies
of mine of all time. Why this is significant to this movie? Okay,
and the dislike section in particular, I'm guessing.
Yes.
Okay.
So I did not feel the relationship between the kid and the lion like I felt the relationship between him, between Hogarth and the Iron Giant. Like,
okay,
when he made this sacrifice at the end for the kid, I mean that pretty much just beat by beat is kind of the story of Iron Giant. He falls in love with this. He falls in love with he gets this relationship with this dangerous creature, right?
Right. Yeah.
And at the end, the dangerous creature makes a sacrifice for him. And at the end of Iron Giant, I'm bawling.
Right.
When the lion makes a sacrifice for this kid, I get the point of it, and I understand, and I think that's cool. But I feel like there's probably to give this movie credit and to give the writer credit, I feel like there's probably a longer draft, because this movie was pretty long for a family film.
It was
where they might have omitted some of the relationship. Since the movie is called Secondhand Lions,
Lions.
I get the analogy and the comparison and all that stuff. But I feel like there should have been a little bit more built on the relationship between the kid and the lion to make me feel it when he died, because I felt nothing when the lion died.
I didn't either.
I mean, you're not an animal guy either, though.
Well,
That's huge. That's really important.
Am I a robot guy?
I
No,
didn't feel
I'm not a
No,
robot
but
guy either.
Yeah, but a robot acts more like a person than an animal. Like you're not an animal guy. Like you have to acknowledge that as part of why you wouldn't care.
They spent a lot of time working on the relationship. And
Name a movie where an animal dies and it made you cry. Name one.
You were just making
it doesn't exist. No, it doesn't exist. That's what I'm saying. I'm just saying there's more at play than the movie failing you here. There's also a preferential thing going on there.
Okay,
so you can't fault the movie for all of it. That's all I'm saying. I'm not criticizing you for
no,
not being
I'm
an animal guy.
I'm not
like,
faulting
but
them
it's
for all
like
of it.
definitely there's more at play than the movie failing you there.
This is things that I felt that could have made it better for me.
Jared,
Yeah.
If they would have worked on the relationship a little bit between him and the lion.
I would have liked to have seen it too.
There's also the relationship, by the way, in the Iron Giant.
So funny.
It's a strong relationship between the kid and his mother, with a father that's absent. I didn't mean it. I wanted to add that in. There are a lot of parallels in this movie, in the Iron Giant.
All right, let's go.
Okay, so my dislikes. I do not like the way it was filmed at all.
Easy.
Thought it was a trash movie as far as like filming and production quality goes. Felt like a kid's movie.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And actually it looked older than Sixth Sense, but the kid was older, so I knew it was a more modern movie than Sixth Sense. And I was like, that's crazy because Sixth Sense is insane looking and still holds up, like directing wise. So that blew my mind. I didn't like Michael Caine's American accent at all. I didn't like the fact that the kid said, "Do something for me." Right. And because he went from it was contradictory to what he was just saying. He went from saying something really selfless about being like, "Mom, has he hit you yet?" Like, you think he really cares about his mom, to going, "I only care about me. Go be with that guy that's going to beat you up and leave me with my uncle so that I can have fun." Didn't like that. That's how it felt in the delivery. Now, I'm sure that the message was probably different, but it was real cringy when I watched it to me. And the thing I hate the most about this movie is the portrayal of Arabian people. It made me sick to my stomach to watch that.
Yeah, when he said Sheik and they showed that guy, I was like,
no, all of it. Even the dude showing up on the helicopter, it's like, oh, because in the modern day they're all oil tycoons, right? That's what they all are, right? And it's like, dude, I hated it. It was gross.
America at that time, that's where they were at.
I guess.
What, and then later than Sixth Sense? There's no way.
Yeah.
There's no way, dude.
feel like
maybe in the 80s.
We're talking about
Maybe in like, I mean, the last time I saw Arabians portrayed that way was like Temple of Doom, maybe.
Bro,
right?
You're
honestly,
talking about
it was like they were cartoon characters. It was.
You're talking about Hollywood folktale.
2003.
Hollywood folktale.
It doesn't excuse it. It didn't excuse it for me. It made me cringe the whole time.
At all. And remember, that was part of my dislikes. That was part of my dislikes right there.
Imagine, like, let's carry this out for a sec. I don't want to like waste a bunch of time here on this because it was deplorable. The way Arabian people were portrayed in that movie was a joke, right? Okay, it was offensive. Like, but imagine if they had done like what Ridley Scott did in Kingdom of Heaven. If they took all of those action sequences and didn't make them fairy tales and instead were hyper realistic reenactments of what actually happened, that could have elevated that movie so far. Yeah, even as a kids movie. Yeah, even as a kids movie, you could have PG'd the violence part, but gave you the reality. And it would have dignified an entire like culture instead of insulting it.
We're talking about Hollywood at that time.
I know, it just doesn't excuse it.
Not only,
but I agree with you, Izzy. I agree with you 1,000%.
There was actual, not blackface, but brownface at one point too.
Yep.
And I mean, Temple of Doom. That's why I brought that up. Temple of Doom, like, it was the last time I could think of that it was so obviously insulting. Like, I was just like, God, dude, like, Temple of Doom didn't age well, even though it's still one of my favorite indie movies. Like,
oh yeah.
Not indie movies, but indie movies.
Indiana, yeah. Okay, that's it. That's all I got, really. I just didn't like the directing. The kid was selfish right after being selfless, and the Arabian thing is just inexcusable.
Two really good points is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, my points are at least a couple of mine are the exact same. Like, I thought the direction of it was really bad. Like the camera angles and the way it was shot, it was almost shot
straight up and down. It felt like a TV show.
Yeah, exactly. It felt like a TV show. Like, everything was just very basic. Like, I don't know. Like the guy didn't have a creative mind at all, or maybe I don't know. Maybe he didn't have a budget for a good cinematographer. um, I do agree about the whole like the way they
They spent it all on the
portrayed.
cast.
Yeah, like the way they were portraying foreign people in it was like so bad, and the flashback stories were like so corny. Like it took me out of every time he went back and they had these corny little fight scenes with the swords, dude. It took me like, oh my god, I was like, what the frick is going on?
Yeah. Yeah.
What else was I gonna say? Yes, I agree with Jared that I didn't buy in two things. I didn't buy into the relationship with the kid and the lion at all. Like, yes, I did not care when the lion died. And for me, like, I didn't really buy into the relationship with the kid and the grandparents at all either. Or the uncles, sorry, the uncles. I didn't buy
Raheem's
into
just
it at
done.
all.
He's done with the channel.
I didn't
Deleting his
buy
Twitter.
it, man. I didn't feel like when the kid came back at the end of the movie, I was like, it wasn't a heartfelt moment to me. I was just like, okay. Like, I don't
Interesting.
think they did a good job of showing like the
I
connect.
was more worried about his
It
mom
wasn't
getting
a
beat.
heartfelt moment,
Honestly,
though.
that's what I couldn't
I
get
know
my
it's
mind off of
supposed
the
to
fact
be.
that his mom's gonna go get beat for the rest of her life, and I'm just like,
Because
dude,
it's
I don't
supposed to
care
be
if you
that
live with your uncle
heartfelt
anymore.
moment, bro.
Like,
It's choice,
Like I
though,
was,
man. That's her
yeah,
choice.
yeah. I don't know, man. I didn't. When he came back at the end, I was just like, okay. Like it just, I don't know. I didn't buy the relationship between him and the uncles. Like
I like that he gave them a list of rules when he did come back, though. All right,
I
you
did
gotta
like
eat
that
more
line.
vegetables.
I did like that
I gotta
line.
go
Yeah.
to school.
Yeah.
Like I thought that was cute.
But yeah, that was my
Okay,
biggest, I guess, dislikes of it. So now you guys want to rate it?
My rating for this film is an 8 for me.
8
and
out
you're
of
gonna
10.
pay for my college.
An 8 out of 10. It had a lot of feel goods for me. So personally, this was a personal film for me. I love it, and mind you, I watch a lot of like black and white films and stuff like that. But like this kind of reminded me of that. Like it's like it kind of had like, if you watch black and white films, it was very basic, right? You have the start of the plot, and then it just builds up, and then you have this crazy part of the ending, and then you have the soft part of the ending that was like 2 minutes. You know what I mean? So it's like this movie reminded me of that. But it was an 8. There was some things in there as far as for movie wise, like if you're going for a perfect movie, this is not a perfect movie. I knew going into this it wasn't going to be a perfect movie, but I loved it. Like I loved it because of how it attached to my memories. It attached to growing up and really looking towards somebody who can help guide you through this world. You know what I mean? So
Right.
for me, this movie became an 8. I enjoyed it very much. The acting was really, really great. Cinematography, of course, wasn't that great, but
Rating.
All right, Jared. Out of
Ratings.
10.
I'm actually, because of the feels that it gave me, and it was just a good family movie. I'm gonna give it a 7. It was a good 7 family movie.
Okay.
All right, Izzy.
I would give it an 8. I would give it an 8 because, again, I try to rate things on what was it trying to do and how well did it do it. It was trying to be a family film about a kid feeling lost and finding direction in an unlikely place. Yeah. And I think it succeeds in doing that. But because of the portrayal of Arabian people, I'm giving it a 7. It's so bad.
I'll take it.
So bad. It would be an 8 without that. If they updated the flashbacks in a way that was respectful to the culture, or even just accurate, without making it a cartoon, I think even with the bad cinematography, I'd still give it an 8 because now. But here's the thing: if I have kids, I'm not going to watch that movie with my kids now because I don't want them to think that I condone that. You know what I mean? That portrayal. I don't want them to think I'm making excuses for a movie, right? You know what I mean? So but I would have if that's the thing. I had to think about that with my rating. I was really torn about the rating even before we started the episode. I was like,
would you show them old episodes of The Simpsons because of the betrayal of Apu?
No.
You would not show them old
episodes. It's so outdated and cringy,
you
man.
Would completely not show your kids episodes of The Simpsons from up to this
I'm not going to sit down with my kids and be like, check out this racially insensitive thing. It's funny. No.
It is. I have kids. I've watched it with them several times.
I know. I'm just saying, dude.
My point is this: I educate them and I tell them,
hey, this isn't okay. But it's I guess.
Yeah,
I don't know.
it's but what
I struggled with it, man. I struggled with it. A lot of that, it did like it killed it. You know what I mean? Like it did the thing it was trying to do.
Education is the
Yeah,
biggest weapon we can have against racism, right? So
yeah,
I showed them the real, and I educate them all the time. My wife does the same thing, and when they see certain films, they point it out.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And my
That's
kids
so
are
cool.
so soft-hearted and so honest and so innocent, but they point it out just like, "Hey, Dad, this had this in it," or if there was a
Well, this
film
is
I'm
good.
watching,
Yeah,
right, and
Earth
then
is sand.
yeah, you know what I'm saying?
That's
So
what. Look, let them watch and have a conversation afterwards. I wish my parents did that with me after watching. So that's so good.
Same. So do I.
So good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish my parents
Those
did
who
that.
forget their history are doomed to repeat it, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. And so that's my whole goal. My whole goal is like, listen, love everybody. I tell them this all the time. Love everybody, even your enemies. Love them all. Just love, 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 love. Because eventually, this is a generational race. I always say this: racism is a generational problem. And what have we seen? Generation after generation after generation, things have been changing. The scope has been changing because people are sick of it. They're sick of seeing this.
The people that care are sick of it. Yeah.
Yeah, they're sick of it, but it grows, right? So the more people that cares, the more people get involved from all race. America is a land of, a melting pot. That's what America is at this point. We are a melting pot. We have everybody here.
Like, I mean, we were when it started. Yeah, like,
you know what I'm saying. And so, like, if we have more people who cares like this, it's a generational issue. Eventually, it will be dealt with. Eventually, right?
I would just never want to. I think my thing is I would never want to sit down with my kids for the purpose of entertainment if that entertainment had something I found offensive in it, and then them be like, "Are you?" And then without asking, trying to wonder if I was making excuses for the thing I was showing them.
No.
Right? I would never even begin the first step down that path. So I just would not watch that movie. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's me. So, like, I don't have kids. So, like, I'm sure the reality is so bonkers compared to what I think it is. Like,
there's nothing wrong. Like, if you ever have kids, and it's not a wrong or a right. And this is what I always say. It's not a wrong or a right. You are the parent. You are the guide. So wherever your right is a right is for your children. I will say.
I just remember looking at my parents even when they didn't know I was looking and being like, "Is that a thing they're okay with? It must be because they're doing it." You know what I mean? Like that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so it's like I just. Anyways, that's why I give it 7.
It is your own right. However you raise your child, it is your own right. You guide and structure them. And when they get a certain age, they're going to take your information and whatever else information that they have gathered, and they're going to become their own person. That's what happens. That's what you did. That's what Jared did. That's what Dave did, and whoever else is watching did. We had information from our parents. We gathered information from the outs, and then we said, okay, this is what the world is.
Right.
And that's how we grew from that point. Now you can go down. You can go from however you are to a worse person or a better person.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And so I'm giving my kids information, and I want them how we're a loving family. We like to just love you all the time. We say we love you every day. We do things lovingly all the time. And so, okay, I'm gonna give you information. Hopefully, you can take this when you get to that age. You're gonna use that to your best ability, and then you grow from that point. And I wish everybody would do that to a degree.
Yeah,
I agree.
Good point. All right. Who I think you guys all went right. 8,
7.
7. Okay. All right. Yeah, I'm gonna give it a 6.
Better than a 5.
I already knew.
I almost gave it a 6 actually. But yeah.
I went from an 8 to a 6. You almost went from an 8 to a 6. Is
because I just didn't like the movie very much. Like so, but I tried really hard not to be swayed by that because it's not my ratings aren't about what I like. It's about how well the movie did what it was trying to do. Like still like I'll always say that. So sometimes my stuff will get the better of me though. Like what I mean. Like there will be something I just like enough or just hate enough. Like, but I don't know.
That's why your Cruella would have been a 10. From
God,
that.
Cruella was so well done.
But
I get Cruella. I give Cruella a 5.
Yeah, look at Dave just trying to flex on how much he hates it. Check him out, all dead-eyed, like, yeah.
Easily a 5. All right.
That was such a fun video to edit.
Yeah, watch our video on Cruella. It was actually
on YouTube. Yeah, go check that out. That's so funny. That's such a funny like episode. Like, oh my goodness.
All right, but we will see you guys next time. All right, you guys have a good one.
Bye, gang.
Thanks for watching, y'all.
What is up, FourTakers? Jared here. I just want to give you a way that you can access our content without giving you a bunch of Twitter account addresses and Facebook account addresses and all that. It is one very important link that you need to remember to see all of that FourTakes has to offer. If you want to listen to our podcasts by itself, if you want to watch us while you listen, if you want to check out all 3 of our very distinct different types of videos that we have under our playlists on YouTube, that's there. If you want to join in on the conversation live via David's Twitch on Monday nights, 8 o'clock Pacific time, that link will be there. If you want to pick the next movie that we do, we're going to do a viewer's pick monthly. That would be through our Facebook or our Twitter accounts. That will be there. If you want to monetarily contribute to us, that will be there. If you want to just check us out and see what we're doing in our everyday life and watch Izzy and David play video games, chat with them personally. If you want to watch me sing dorky Mandalorian parody videos and hang out with my granddaughter and do all sorts of goofy skits, that will be there. Everything is there, and it's under one address that you need to remember. It is linktr.ee/FourTakes. Now, the important thing is that there is a dot between the tr.ee. It is linktr.ee/ no, that's confusing. linktr.ee/FourTakes. Enjoy the show and check that out.